Hey divers, Alec, Peirce, Scuba. Tech tips, here we are back at Scuba 2000, my old store. Yeah, it's like being home again. We built this store and ran it for 20 years. It's still a beautiful store. But anyway, I want to talk to you about something and gain another response to a comment about fixing your own power inflate valve. I've spent quite a bit of time over the past several years talking about taking care of your BCD. Because the BCD is one of the pieces of diagram that you can take good care of, make it last a long time, when you should do that. BCDs are not cheap anymore. You can't find a BCD for under $500, I don't think, and pretty tough anyway, a decent one. And $1,000 for a BCD is not uncommon. And unfortunately, they're made of fabric. Yeah, they're like jeans. They wear out. So you need to take good care of them to make them last as long as possible. You should be able to get 5 or 6 years use out of a BCD fairly easily. But what can you do? The one piece of the BCD, the one part of the BCD that is subject to a lot of maintenance problems is the power inflate valve. You recognize this. This fastens to your shoulder, and you push the button. I got a hose right here. You know, you put your BCD inflator hose on, and you push the button. Air goes in, you hold it up, air goes out, and so on. So you know how this device works. And they have a cable runs through, so you have a dump valve on the shoulder and all that stuff. Now, I've already explained in previous videos, you have to look back, how you can take this off the shoulder carefully, clean it, make sure you don't lose that O-ring, that sealing ring, take this apart. You can clean that easily, a little bit of silicone grease, put it back on even more carefully because they're plastic threads. I've talked about all that. I've talked about the hose and so on. The one part of the BC Power Inflate Valve, that's what this is called, a PIV, Power Inflate Valve. The one part of the Power Inflate Valve that's very difficult for divers to service is the actual inflate mechanism right here. There are different styles of these, but invariably they involve properly taking them, disassembling them, taking out the parts, and those parts may include a spring, a Schrader valve, several O-rings. Some of the designs have a brass, chrome brass spring and shaft that goes through with several O-rings. There can be several parts involved with these, and you got to take it apart properly and put it back together properly too to make it work. So this particular section is a tough part. I'm not going to explain how to do that because everyone is different. If you have 5 different manufacturers, their inflator valve, this part right here, is different, almost every one of them. So it's very difficult for me to say, okay, do this, do that, and so on. Generally, I would suggest that you avoid this. If you're very mechanical, carefully figure out how to get it apart, clean everything, put it back together, then you would be successful. But generally, I say no. So what do you do to make sure that this stays in good shape? Because even that part, which has mechanical and steel and chrome parts in it, gets salt water in it. BCDs, by their very nature, get wet inside and out. How do you make sure that that stays in good shape? Well, it's pretty tough. But there is one device on the market, and I have mentioned this before as well. But in response to one of your comments, let me show it to you again. Right there. This is a BCD, I don't know what they call it, flush out valve. BCD Flush Valve. You can find them. And it's the simplest thing. You could make one of these, you know, if you were handy. This is a quick clip that snaps onto your BCD, just like that. Get an old BCD hose from your dive store if you want to. And this is a female hose end. So you can get a female hose end from Home Depot, put it onto that hose. It's not quite that simple because the hose ends at Home Depot for garden hoses aren't the same, but you could probably figure it out. Don't know if it's worth it. These are about 15 to 20 bucks. Okay, maybe even less online. So if you got one of these BCD flush hoses, you would solve the problem with that high maintenance power inflate valve. This is called a flush. It's designed to flush out the whole BCD, and it does a good job. But you can do that without this. You can put water down through the hose or through one of the dumps. You can do that. What is this really valuable for? Well, this is really valuable because when you put that on, hook it up to your garden hose, and then press the button. Instead of air going through from your tank, guess what? Water goes through. And it's nice, clean, fresh water. That water goes through this mechanism, and it flushes all that salt and dirt out of there. So it doesn't matter if there's O-rings in there and brass shafts and Schrader valves. It all gets flushed really nicely. It's the only way to do it. It really is the only way. When someone comes in and their power inflate valve is leaking or not working or sticking, whatever, as a service department, I simply take it all apart, clean everything, replace the O-rings, grease everything properly, and reassemble it. It's a lot of work, and it costs money. 25 or 30 bucks. Get one of these and you'll never have to do that because it flushes everything out. Anyway, it's just a tip. I didn't know if you knew about that. I don't suggest that individual divers try to service the actual air valve. Possible. It can be a little bit tough. But this is a good alternative. Good idea. If you're having a problem with your BCD or you're one of those people that want to keep it working good shape for a long time, then consider that. Okay, that's it. Nice short tech tip for you. Hope you take care of your BCD. Alec, Peirce, Scuba Tech Tips. Talk to you soon.